The dangerous observer, imagine this. You're at a rally, massive political gathering. 10,000 people crowded in a stadium chanting the same slogans, looking for desperately seeking salvation for his elected leader. Hail, do the right thing. He's our only hope. They wave banners. They shout until they drop hoarse. They surrender their individual will to this political messiah who promises fix their lives, solve their problems, giving meaning and purpose to their existence. The energy is intoxicating. The crowd moves as a single organism, desperate for someone else to do it responsible for their future. They need you. This leader validates their beliefs, which say what is right and what is wrong. That be your moral guide in a confusing world. They have found their new God, and they worship with the fervor of true one's believers. But there is a man standing at the bottom of the sand. He doesn't sing, he doesn't clap, does not raise his hands in worship. While thousands around them search, desperately looking for an external savior who guide their lives, he simply observe. You don't need validation from this leader, does not need political salvation. Needs no one else to solve their problems or tell him how to think. And that, my friend, makes him the person most dangerous in that whole area. But why? Why would someone who doesn't need a political messiah, external ideology to guide him, a leader whom to worship and follow represents as such a profound threat? Why would a man that cannot be saved because it does not need salvation terrifies so much the faithful as well as the leaders themselves? This is what nobody wants to understand. We are witnessing the greatest replacing the history of the humanity. The crowd has not abandoned the faith, has simply replaced its old one God for a new one. They have changed the divine worship for political worship, the religious salvation for salvation ideological. But this man has committed heresy supreme, has killed all the gods, the foundations of control that he had in mind, and has claimed the vacant throne for himself. Keep that thought, because we are about to explore how this happens transformation, why it is inevitable, and why it represents the most evolution radical in human consciousness. Since that we look for the first time at the stars, and we wonder if anyone he was watching us, so why? What that man at the political rally terrifies everyone around him. Here is the harsh truth that no one wants to admit. Our entire civilization is based on your need, your spiritual need, your ideological need, your desperate need for someone more meaning to your life. Think about it. All advertising promises to complete you. Every political campaign offers to save you. Every social movement demands that you join their cause. Every self-help guru insists that you need his system. Even all applications of relationships work with the same fundamental premise. You are incomplete without external validation. But what happens if that is the biggest lie ever counted? And if every system of power, religious, political, economic, social depended entirely on keeping you in a state of perpetual incompleteness? And if they needed you to believe that you are broken to sell you the cure? And if they will need you to feel lost to offer you guidance? And if they needed you to sit down powerless to promise you salvation? The man who remains silent in that demonstration has understood it. It has seen through the matrix of the manufactured dependency. While everyone else is searching desperately in external meaning, an external purpose, a validation external, he has made a discovery terrifying. He doesn't need any of that. No needs your salvation because it is not broken. He doesn't need your guidance because he can navigate your own path. You don't need your validation because it validates itself. The prophets of the void, and this is what makes it so dangerous. If you don't need their salvation, they can't control you. If you don't need his meaning, they can't manipulate you. If you don't need their approval, they can't buy you. But we are living something even more radical than independence individual. We are witnessing the consequences of the biggest murder in the history of the humanity, and each one of us squeezed the trigger. We killed the highest external authority, and now something much more powerful reemerges from the ashes. Two men saw this coming a long time ago, before anyone else, and what they discovered will change everything you think you know about power, freedom, and what it means human being. Those two men who you saw this coming. Let me introduce you to the most dangerous philosophers of the history. Carl Jung, he was not just academic thinkers, but who diagnosed the biggest crisis of the humanity. And they were the architects of something unprecedented. Carl Jung was the one who made the terrifying announcement. God has dead. God is still dead, and we have killed. But this is what most of the people overlook. I wasn't celebrating. He was horrified. He saw that we had murdered the very foundations of Western civilization and predicted the tsunami of nonsense that would come after. He called it nihilism, and he knew it would be devastating. But Carl Jung had performed surgery, yet more radical 4 decades earlier. While Carl Jung focused on the death of God, Carl Jung exposed something much more complete. Revealed that each substitute that we created, the state, the humanity, morality, justice, democracy itself, will be nothing more than another I love with a different mask. He called them ghosts, authorities ghostly that possess your mind and demand your obedience. And this is where things get tough. Terrifying. Both men arrived at the 3-stage transformation, same shocking conclusion. In the void left by faith, in the void created by this great slaughter, only one thing could fill the vacant throne. Not a new one God, not a new ideology, not a new political system. The individual itself, the self, must rise up to claim the throne of supreme authority. You must become your own God, your own moral legislator, your own source of meaning and purpose. Not because it is comfortable or easy, but because literally there is no other place for him to go power. What these philosophers understood and what that man in the demonstration has discovered is that when you eliminate all external authority in your mind, you do not become impotent. You become the most powerful imaginable, completely self-sufficient. But the transformation of a faithful servant, a self-made God, does not happen in any way overnight. It's a process, and it's more terrifying than you can imagine. So how does this actually happen? Terrifying transformation? How does someone go from being a faithful servant to become a God himself? It is a 3-stage process, and the most chances are you're already in the middle of it. Stage 1, the great slaughter. It's not just about losing faith in God, but to recognize that all external authority that claims to dominate your inner world is a lie. That's right what this looks like in real life. You realize that you have been living according to rules you never chose. You follow the moral codes that your parents, transmitted your culture, your society. But you never asked yourself, why, what should I believe this is correct? Carl Jung saw it clearly. Even when people stopped believing in God, I continued to worship Christian morality like zombies, following a master dead. They said, I don't believe in God, but we should still love our enemies and turn the other cheek. But why? If there is no God, why is his forgiveness sacred? Carl Jung elaborated. He explained that democracy, justice, humanity, and progress are not noble ideals that are discovered through the reason. They're what he called ghosts, ghostly authorities that possess your mind and demand your obedience as they used to God do it. Think about it. When was the last time you asked yourself if is equality really good? When you last examined if the democracy deserves your reverence? You haven't abandoned religion. You've just changed churches. Second stage, emptiness and choice. Once you realize that all your beliefs come from sources external, that all your certainties, morals, are just inherited opinions, you face a terrifying void. Everything what you believe to be objectively true turns out to be subjectively chosen by someone more. This is what Carl Jung called the nihilistic abyss. Now you have a choice. You can become what Carl Jung called the last man. Someone who says, nothing matters, so I'll feel comfortable. I will seek pleasure, avoid pain, and I'll let others make the decisions important. That's how most people are today. Where you can face the terrifying truth. If there are no facts, divine, architecture, moral, objectives dictated from above, then you must create your own meaning from scratch. Most of the people can't handle this. They prefer serve a lie than to assume the responsibility to decide what is right and wrong for themselves. Stage 3, the ascent. This is where you stop being a follower and you become a creator. But here this is where Carl Jung and Carl Jung disagree on how this happens. Carl Jung says, stop trying to improve. Recognize that you are already the highest authority in your life. Your wishes, your will, your decisions, that's all that matters. All that others, the morals of others, the expectations of society, even your own past commitments, make it your property so that use it or dispose of it as you see fit. It seems You don't try to improve according to standard external. You simply appropriate it who you are right now. Carl Jung says, use your freedom for become something bigger. Don't limits to accepting you. Get over yourself. Create new values that make life worth it. Become someone so powerful, so creative, so vital, that you become a walking god among mortals. It is not about egoism. It is about self-creation top level, but both ways lead to the same destination, the complete self-sufficiency. The question is not whether you will undertake this journey, but how aware you will be when it happens. What does it really look like when anyone complete this transformation? What are the characteristics of a person who has become your God himself? After studying both Carl Jung and Carl Jung, I have identified 4 pillars that define this new type of human being. Pillar 1, moral autonomy. They don't discover what is right or what is wrong. Believe it. Think about it. Everything what they consider moral comes from another place, of their parents, of their culture, of the cost of divinity, their religion, their society. But what would happen if they had to start from scratch? What would happen if you had to decide, based solely on their own reasoning and experience, that deserves to be considered good or bad? This person has already done it. He has written his own moral code based on their will, vision, and ability to make it happen. Pillar 2, existential self-sufficiency. No, they find their purpose. They decide. There's a cosmic plan that they try to discover. No divine call that expect to receive. No written destiny in the stars. They understand that meaning is something that it prevails over chaos, not something that is find out. When you ask them, what is your purpose? Zenial, they don't seem confused or lost. They say what they have chosen to create. Pillar 3, psychological sovereignty. They do not seek validation, they are validation. Your approval does not matter to them. The applause of society does not move them. Their own trial becomes the last instance. This is not arrogance. It is the natural result of assuming full responsibility for your life. When you become your own authority, you leave of needing anyone's permission to exist. Pillar 4, creative property. They don't inherit values, they possess them. Everything becomes raw material for your creative project. The morals of others, the rules social, including their own beliefs past, everything becomes property that they can use, modify, or discard willpower. But this is what no one tells you about becoming a god. He has a price that most people don't is willing to pay. So what is the price of becoming your own god? Let's be totally honest about the true cost of this transformation. Why they fear you first, cosmic loneliness. You will notice that most of the people still kneel before teachers that you have overcome. While they desperately seek validation from the authorities that elected you, you have overcome the need for approval external. The gap between you and those who they still worship you, whether it be God, democracy, social networks, or political leaders, becomes unsalvageable. Don't feel alone in the sense of need company. You are isolated in the sense of consciousness. Secondly, place the weight of creation. Each the decision is yours alone. There is no plan. Divine to blame when things go wrong. There is no higher purpose that justifies your suffering. There is no an external authority that takes the difficult decisions for you. You must create meaning knowing that it is entirely your creation. That's terrifying. The most people prefer the comfort of serving another's truth instead of taking responsibility for create your own. Thirdly, social exile. People fear what they cannot control and cannot control someone who doesn't need your approval. Those who cannot imagine life without its comforting chains will call you arrogant, dangerous, or crazy. The mere existence of your independence threatens your dependency, and this is where it gets really dangerous. Carl Jung, he warned that without external morality could create monsters. Power, without the control of morality traditional, could corrupt by complete. Carl Jung warned of the risk opposite. Everything could be dissolved, even oneself, in pure ego, losing all connection with anything significant thing beyond the immediate desires. But this is the fascinating thing. Those who fear this transformation are the same that they desperately need understand why it happens. Because, whether they realize it or not, they live in a world where the path to dangerous divinity, this process, is already inevitable. Why society fears so desperately this transformation? Why the self-sufficient individual represents such a profound threat to all the institutions that surround us? The answer reveals the dark truth about how ours really works world. Economic control. All our economy depends on people who need external validation to feel complete. Think about it. Every advertisement sells you an identity. Each product promises to fix what's wrong with you. Each service offers to fill your void internal. But someone psychologically self-sufficient does not buy meaning, does not buy identity, does not need products to feel valuable. They are terrible consumers, and that threatens trillions of dollars in revenue. Political manipulation. The system's democratic systems depend on people who let yourself be influenced by noble causes. Vote for the common good. Sacrifice yourself for the country. Think about the generation's future. But someone who has become his highest authority cannot be controlled by ideology. Guilt cannot be instilled in him. That supports causes that do not serve their interests. They evaluate each political statement based on your own values, not on the group emotions. Social hierarchy. Every status game requires people who care desperately about status. Luxury brands, prestigious universities, clubs, exclusive. It all depends on your needs. Of external validation, but someone who validates itself destroys by complete the foundations for promotion social. They are not impressed, intimidate, or control by the conventional demonstrations of success. Psychological projection. This is the deepest fear. You're the sacred paradox. Independence reminds others your dependence. Your strength highlights your weakness. Your freedom makes it visible in visible chains. The mere existence of your self-sufficiency forces them to face a question uncomfortable. If they can live without needing it that I need, what does that say about me? But the thing is this, you don't have to get caught in their system. There's a way out, and it is simpler than what you think. So how do you really become dangerous? How do you free yourself from the system? Who benefits from your dependency? It's a 4-step process, and you can get started today. Step 1. Review your masters. Right now, make a list of all external authorities to which you still obey them without question. Who do you turn to for moral guidance? Approval from whom you still long for? What beliefs you hold simply because did someone tell you? Start with the ones feel more sacred. Those are usually the strongest chains. The goal is not to rebel against everything. It is to choose consciously what you deserve loyalty. Step 2. Practice the divine indifference. Stop asking permission for your decisions. Stop giving explanations to those who anyway they wouldn't understand you. Stop apologizing for decisions that serve your true interests. When someone questions your decisions, ask yourself, is this person's opinion really matters in my life? Most of the time the answer is no. You becomes your law, not theirs judgment. Step 3. Create your own values. This is the hardest one. Don't try. Reform the old morality. Replace it the divine awakening completely. Ask yourself, if I had to build a moral system from scratch, based solely on my experience and reasoning, what would it be like? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of world do you want to create? Start building that reality in your sphere of influence, regardless of what others think. Step 4. Accept loneliness. Learn to feel comfortable in the living room empty throne, without a divine voice whispering guidance, without a crowd applauding your decisions, without external validation of your worth. Only you creating meaning in the silence, making decisions from your own center of power. But here it is where most people go wrong completely. They believe that becoming your own God means to isolate yourself and be cruel. In reality, it's quite the opposite. Here is the beautiful contradiction that changes everything. The moment you stop needing to be God, you become one. The moment you stop requiring external validation of your value, you discover that it has always been divine. The power was never out there. It was always inside you, waiting the courage to claim it. Think about what happens when you complete this transformation. When you stop needing others to help you complete, you can love them for what are, rather than what they can do for you give. When you stop looking for saviors, you become capable of saving others. When you stop demanding that the world validate your existence, you become free to contribute to it. Your relationships, they improve because they become optional in place of desperate. You choose to be with people because you really enjoy their company, don't you? Because you feel alone or incomplete without them. Your friendships deepen because they are based on a connection authentic, not in mutual need. Your work becomes more rewarding because you no longer desperately seek the approval from your bosses or colleagues. You can concentrate on doing a job excellent for the simple fact that do it. Instead of looking for the external approval, you become more valuable to others precisely because you don't need their approval. Even your purpose becomes more of course. When you stop looking for a mission cosmic imposed from above, you can focus on the impact that really you want to generate. When you stop serving to abstract ideals such as humanity or progress, you can help real people with real problems right in front of them to you. The supreme irony. Who doesn't need to be God becomes more like to him. He who does not require worship becomes worthy of reverence. He who does not seek followers attracts them. Naturally. But the transformation will not be complete until you understand a truth final, the most radical revelation of all. What is the most revealing radical of all? This is it. You have been divine all this time. You have always been your own supreme authority. You have always had the power to create your own meaning, write your own moral code, validate your own existence. The only thing that has changed is you. Recognition of what was already true. Remember that man at the rally politician. He was not special for having developed some supernatural power. It was dangerous because he finally stopped pretend that he needed permission someone to exist. He stopped looking external gods because he realized that had always been one. This is my challenge. Stop worshiping. Stop serving causes that don't serve you. Stop looking salvation in nothing and no one outside of you. Become a danger, though not for others, but for every system that profits from your dependent spiritual. The world doesn't need more believers, needs more gods. Needs such complete individuals, so self-determined, so creatively powerful, that they're not can buy, sell, control, or contain. You need people who understand that in a universe without inherent meaning become creators of meaning. So ask yourself, what would you do if you thought you were the highest authority on your life? What would you create if you had the power divine? What would you destroy if nothing were sacred, except your true will? This week, do this. Identify a sacred belief that you have never questioned, an authority that never you have defied, a chain that never you have examined. Then ask yourself the question, most dangerous of all, does this serve my purpose? Power, or does my power serve him? Remember, in a world full of worshipers desperately seeking gods, the most radical act is to recognize that has always been divine. Simply you forgot, but now you remember. If this awakens something in you that you had felt before, like it and subscribe, because we are just beginning this journey towards the dangerous divinity.